So I might be the only apple falling from this banana bushel, but when it comes to the touchy subject of DLC and Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm gonna go ahead and say that for those of you who are hoping there won't be some sort of downloadable concoction, you have just about as much hope as I did introducing my sister to anime just to watch her vomit profusely, scorn the shit I was watching, and massacring my foolishly founded idea that we'd actually pick up a fun hobby together. But with an X amount of episodes reportedly being full-size games and spaced incrementally apart, the middle ground that could be about a year and a half maybe, meaning that FF7R won't be done until 2023, a date that I've actually readily prepared myself for, even if Katase was supposedly joking when he said it. Goddamn Katase. Fringe touchy subject joke, mate. So the notion that Square aren't going to take this juicy rollout structure as an opportunity to spatter in some hopefully free but most certainly paid for additional content is, well, I mean, just look at 15. If Cindy's booty was game content, the line clearly shows original game content versus the rest. And yeah, I just don't see the same company going from Ultimate Royal Complete Extended Edition with an array of side dishes to nothing. Gnats fart nothing. It just isn't gonna happen. So rather than question its likely existence, I'd find it better time spent considering what kind of DLC would I want in the elusive remake, against the kind I absolutely would not. Because believe it or not, and I know this may be unpopular with some, but I do want there to be DLC. I do. I think there is a route, there is an option where we can actually enjoy some truly fulfilling and well done extra content that doesn't have to feel like we're being barebacked by the corporate hog. First of all, no story retconning. You can't repair a turd after you've stepped in it. I've tried. So any kind of going back and adding extra dialogues to the chapters or the characters, lines that they just forgot to say on filming day, I'm not interested. Make the chapters play out the way you want them to. Don't fix them later. Yes, I am talking about chapter 13. Because there's no point. In my opinion, chapters, how they are initially received when a player first plays the game, that is the strongest and often the only way that players will receive the emotion or the feeling or the excitement of that scene. Doing it after doesn't fix anything. Secondly, what I don't want is no location DLC. Do not lock any areas, as tempting as something like Wutai will be to lock behind a paywall, especially as it was technically optional in the original as well. Well, just don't. Keep all the areas available to the FF7 we know from the core title we all love, but I will throw some bones out here. Something like the various sectors of Midgar. We never really got them in the original, and I know that Midgar's going to be huge now, so if you want to open the other sectors and do something a bit juicy or interesting, I'm game with that. Or something like the islands, Goblin Island, Cactua Island, Round Island. If you want to take some of those and use them as DLC to get up to all kinds of shenanigans with, I'd be happy with that. I am also very game, in fact probably more than game. I'd like you to do Gongaga. Have its story told at long last, or the mysterious Benora that was introduced in the Crisis Core installment. I'd be cool to see them return, or used specifically as DLC sections. But that's extended universe stuff, and I will get onto that point in a second. The next kind of DLCs, and this is pretty likely that they might try this, is character DLCs. So would I be happy if they followed a structure like FF15, giving each main character in the party an individual episode? No. Every character's backstory in the PS1 Legend game is integral, in my opinion, to the build-up, the essence of the original game, of the precisely dedicated attention that each of those protagonists uniquely went through and their arcs. I do not want to see you casting out Dine's scene onto some DLC or throw the entire backstory of Vincent and Lucretia and Hojo. I don't want to see any of that slapped on post-game for the pretty price of $4.99. But that's just main characters. As for the full cast of Final Fantasy VII, it's a very large cast, and I'd be lying to say if there weren't some that I wouldn't be a bit partial to having their own episodes. It's maybe something like episode Reeve, or episode Avalanche with Jesse, Biggs and Wedge, or episode Turks, or Don Corneo. Rich, integral, beautiful characters who have a wealth of backstory and a lot of behind the scenes action while the game is going on. Reeve especially. We barely see much of him in the FF7 original. An episode Reeve would not go down too badly, but then, and this is where I'm now going to go back to that extended universe stuff I was talking about, an episode Zack. Zachary Zakiah, an opportunity to see one of the franchise's favourites done more justice than just his 20 seconds that he had in the original. Yes, I know there's more people than not, do not deny it, who want to see him have some extra scene time, and there's a lot of other characters as well. So there's Genesis, there's Angeal, Cisne, the Sviets, Elf, Dene, even universe gods like Minerva. I know not everyone holds each of them and these extended personalities to the same high regard, and indeed Nomura did state that the remake would invalidate the plots of things like, say, Dirge or Crisis Core, or make them out of context, was more the gist I got from what he said. But I don't think that necessarily stops us having, say, a DLC that tackles the prequel story of 7. You know, the events leading up to the start of the remake. It could be a Crisis Core DLC in heart and spirit, from Zack's view when they're escaping the lab. But it doesn't actually have to be a Crisis Core DLC. It can just draw aspects and inspiration from that part of the story. And this, I'm just going to cut straight to it, guys. This is where my desire for the content, DLC-wise, this is where it really lies. I am of the belief that a like for like of the original is inferior, compared to taking this remake as an opportunity to explore aspects and events the original could not. I want that, and I'm glad that that is what Nomura says they plan to do, but I do recognise the potential downside to this, and that is that with all this extra added universal content, it could really disrupt the very identifiable, the very memorable pacing and flow of the original 7, and it could leave fans, the ones who are just looking to relive their childhood game, it could leave them feeling quite estranged from the game they once knew, especially if there's a lot of these extra plot elements that they really can't relate to or didn't enjoy or indeed didn't play. So the answer to me seems obvious here. This extended stuff. The lineage of the Buster Sword, the awakening of Omega, finally wrapping up maybe the return of Genesis, or maybe incorporating the wealth of actions that Aerith goes through in the live stream from the Maiden Ultimanias. Whatever it is, the list here is honestly infinite, because this is just how big the FF7 universe has got now. And I think it would just be a stellar idea if those bits were sectioned away in the DLC, if that's what the DLC was all used for. If we're gonna have it, that is. Because that way, I think fans who don't indulge this extended universe content, they can play their desired remake, they can play their original game near enough, remade, without all of these lore additives overwhelming or distracting from the core experience. Everyone wins that way, Square Enix. That way we get a cohesive original playthrough, but also bold experimental takes on the extended stuff, and they have said with that stuff they do plan to draw down aspects of it. So if you're gonna go bold and crazy and wild, do it in the DLC. I will be more than game for that. Like I said, I'm really up for seeing, is the Nomura of now, the Nomura, the Kitase, are they same as the ones of 20 years ago? I don't want to see these directors with so much more experience confined to just trying to remake, copy pasta what they did 20 years ago. I want to see what they can do, where their creativity has gone. So I mean, what do you guys think? Anyone feeling me here? I know the chance that Square will actually do it this way is fairly slim, but in my personal opinion, the story of FF7 has just become so much richer since 1997, and there's some real quality material just ripe for repurposing in there. Let me know what you think, Pezzers. This is the best way I can see all parties being happy. Well, not all. I mean, there's absolutely no chance that everyone's going to be happy with this thing. But if the remake is going to include DLC content, what would you most like it to be? Let's start thinking about it. What would titillate you the strongest? And yes, indeed, ma'am, I have seen that at E3, Square Enix have got the biggest set. They are going hard this E3, and with Kingdom Hearts 3 news already slipping out, and some hints about FF7 Remake being there. I think this E3, for any Square Enix fan, this is going to be a huge one. So for all the people who have been asking me, Pez, will you be streaming it? Hell yeah, most definitely. And I'm super excited for it. So there we go, guys. Until the next video, Kubo!